I'm starting the recording. As part of the HANA, the HA configuration, the primary and secondary, the replication configuration. So what we have to do it here. So in the primary host, we need two HANA systems here. One is the primary, and second one is the secondary system we required here, right? In the primary, we have to install the HANA database. So, and the instance number 04 we have installed. The secondary also we have to do the same configuration. We have to perform it here, right? So this is the SAP HANA, right? So this is the SAP Linux 1. We have the two hosts are there. So we have to install the same HANA, same SID, same instance number, two different hosts we have to install it, right? So that we have done it here. You can see that steps we have to done it here. So see here in the, we have the two hosts in the SAP HANA 1. So SAP HANA, SAP Linux 1, we have the two hosts are available. So that, so we have installed the here. It is running, up and running here. In the primary, in the secondary, both are up and running here. So then what we have to do it next here. So the next one, so once you have done it, same HANA, same SID, we have to install it here. So once the configuration is done here, then the next step, what we have to do, same SID and instance number on so both the systems here, both the systems here. Yes, we have done it here. That is true. Then what next here? So we have to exchange the keys. We have to copy the keys. The next one is the, so copy the keys. Keys means SSFS keys from, so the primary, the global directory, global and security folder to the secondary same directory, we have to move it here, right? Assume our SAP HANA is our primary system. So SAP Linux 1 is our secondary system. Like that we have distributed, right? This is the primary, this is the secondary here. Now, what is the next step? Copy the keys. So where the keys are available here. So here copy the keys means, so here we can use the WinSCP to perform this configuration here, WinSCP here. So go to the primary here, right? SAP HANA is our primary here. Then here, go to the, so USR, SAP, then SID, HD4, then HSys, right? Global directory, then security, then here you see the data and data files and keys. These two things we need to copy from. So we need to copy these two things here, right? Data and keys we have to copy and we have to place into the, you have SAP Linux 1 here. Let's go to the, so Linux 1 here, okay? SAP Linux 1. So this is our secondary. We assume this is as a secondary system here. I'm logging here. So I'm using the simple tool, OS level tool, WinSCP to move the files here. Then go to the same folder here, USR, SAP, then HD4, then sys, global, then security. This keys, these two folders, we have to replace it here, right? We have to replace it here. Yes, yes. Okay. So we have done it here. So we have replaced it here. So same from here to here, we have replaced it here. Then what next here? What next here? So we need to restart the system. We need to restart the system here. So HD4 ADM, after your replacement, we need to restart the system here, right? So we are restarting the system. Why? Because after replacement, so after the SSFS keys replacement, this is a very important replacement. After the key replacement, so after replacement, we need to restart the system to check whether it's starting or not. Okay, this we have to perform it. So that is what we are doing here, right? So stop now. Again, start it. Sometimes it won't start. It won't start with the other system keys here. So like that, let's see here whether it is still starting or not here. Then, then what we have to do, we have to take the full database backup here. We have to take the full database backup of the your primary system here. So take the full DB backup, take the full DB backup on primary here, right? So then log into the primary. Where is your primary? So so I think this is our primary. Just we changed it here. Just go to the right click, here, backup and recovery. Just take the backup of the system DB. Done. Okay. So take the backup of the your. So let me change the description here because we have to change the description here. This is the PRI. Okay. This is our secondary. People will get confused here. Okay. Okay, done. So primary database backup, we have to take it system, and tenant DB backup, we have to take it now. So that's done it. Then we have started the system. System is started. Backup also running here. Just check. So primary up and running. Then secondary, just check. Secondary also up and running, right? So secondary also it's up and running. Just we restarted the secondary also. It's running here. So this is the primary tenant database here. So that's why because both SIDs are same. That's why, but post names are different here. Post names are different here. So that's why. So I mentioned like PRA, secondary here. So this is secondary here. So why I mentioned here SAP Linux one is our secondary here. That's why I mentioned the secondary here, right? So now what we have to do here, the backup is done here. So now enable the replication. Now, so enable the replication. Now enable the replication on primary here. Once the backup is done, once it is started, we have to enable the replication. Log into the system DB. Okay, go to the configuration monitoring, then configure the system replication here. So then here it lost the HD for ADM, SID ADM, then password we have to give it here. Password we have to give to the here. Let's see here. Right? So enable the system replication here. We have to set this option here. Next, what is the site name? What is the site name? So PRI. So PR primary site A. Maybe you can mention like site A. This is the primary data center. Site A. When was the backup taken? Yeah. That's why you have to take the backup. If you don't take the backup, it will say here. Now see, this is the primary here, right? Just click on the OK button. So now you have enabled the replication now, right? Enabling the replication, that is done, right? So after you enabling, you see here in the after you enabling here in the landscape tab, you see the system replication option here. So this options here, replication things will come free here. Replication things will come to the here. The line items will come to the here, right? So you have done it now, right? You have done it now. So primary you have enabled here. Now in the secondary, what we have to do, stop the secondary DB, then register into primary. But because primary, it should we have to link the secondary database into primary here. For stopping, so otherwise what will happen if you don't stop it the secondary? So right click on here, go to the configuration monitoring, then configure the system replication here, right? Then it will ask the, again, same procedure we have to do it here, right? But here you need to choose the different option here. One more option we need to choose it here. Right? Again, enable the replication. There is no register secondary system option is not came here. Register secondary system not placed. Why? Because the system must be stopped before registering. Why? Because we have enabled on the primary. So you don't require again to be enabled. We have to register the secondary into primary. In that case, what we have to do? We need to stop the your secondary system here. HDB stop. You have to stop it here. Just I am stopping the system here. So before stopping in the primary, just create the some data here. So that all the data will be replicated here. So all the in the primary in the SAP HANA, I'm just creating the some data here. So some users, some replicating. Why? Because it should come to the secondary DB also, right? So that's why I'm just to replicate. I'm just creating the so one user, one dummy role I can create it here. The role also I can create it here. Z basis role also I created. So one user, one role I created. So where I created in the primary tenant DB I created here. So same way it should come to the here. So now you see there are no things, nothing here, no users, nothing here. So because we created only on the primary here. So once it is stopped here, now log into the secondary system DB, then right click and configure the system replication here. Configure the system replication here. So now see, register the secondary system here. So the option is enabled here. So previously not enabled. Why? Because we have not stopped the system. So mandatory stop the secondary DB, then register into the primary, right? Then register into the primary, click on the next button. So now it will ask the site name, right? So this we can provide it site B or something. So now you see the replication modes and operation modes concept here. So this is the very important here, the replication modes and operational modes concept here, RO, right? So what is the replication modes here? So here we have the three types of replication modes here. Here we have the three types of replication modes here. So sync mem, and async. There are three types of replication modes here. Sync means here. So synchronization here. So which means synchronize on the disk level. Sync on disk, which means a disk level. The data will be replicated. The primary system send the data to the secondary, right? The primary will send the data to the secondary here, right? Synchronous and asynchronous. So the secondary, once the data is received by the secondary, then it will send the acknowledgement back to the primary saying that I have received the transaction. Then again, primary will send the transaction to the secondary. Then secondary again will send the acknowledgement back to the primary whether I have received it. So sending response. So in the synchronous mode, the data will be sent to the secondary. The secondary will send the acknowledgement back to the primary. So like that, the primary system will wait committing the transaction until it get the reply of the log is persisted in the secondary system. So sync on the disk means, so the log will sit into the data folder that is called the persistency layer. Then it will give the response. Then it will send it to the again here. Then it will go and sit into the here. So that is the main thing here, right? So immediately this is the immediate consistency, data consistency here, immediate consistency between the primary system here. The cost of the cost of delaying the transaction by time for the data transferring, and the secondary system is very less here. Why? Because when the suppose, why? Because we are not sending to the main memory here. We are sending the data to the disk level, persistency storage level. The log is persisted into the secondary. Why? Because we are first the data will go to the main memory, then it will go to the data folder, then that is the sequence, right? Here the data, when the primary send the response, it will primary send the transaction, secondary will receive, then will place the data into the persistently in the secondary system, then it will send the response here, right? When the suppose if the connection is lost, if the when the connection to the primary connection to the secondary is lost, the primary the primary system continuously transaction process writes the changes into the local disk only. Local disk, when the connection is lost, suppose during this case it lost the connection. Why? Because it lost the connection means secondary will not send the response to the primary system in the synchronous mode, right? So which means it will wait for the transaction, right? So why? Because then only it will commit the next transaction, second transaction here. So when the connection to the secondary is lost, the primary system continues the transaction process and it will write the data into only local disk. So no data loss occurs in this as long as secondary is connected. So when the data loss occurs, when the takeover is executed while the secondary is disconnected, so that time we have the data loss will happen here. So that is the main. So in between we should not take over. So when we have to connect it, then data should be replicated, then we have to take the takeover of the secondary, means secondary will be fine. So additionally, the replication mode can run with its full sync option. This means the log is write is successful when the log buffer has been primary here. So right. So which means we have to suppose when you choose the sync mode, so which means primary will send the data to the secondary, secondary will send the response back to the primary, then primary, this is the navigation will happen. When the connection is broken, even though the primary will system will write the data into the local disk here, the primary will send the data to the local disk here. When the connection is reconnected, then we should wait it. It will be push all the data to the secondary on persistency memory here. But whenever the takeover happens, so we will have the data loss activity. So that is the synchronous memory here. Synchronous. Sync mem means this is the persistency disk here. Data will be persisted to the disk here. This is the data is the persisted to the memory here. That's why we have the sync mem here. Sync mem means the primary same synchronous mode means the primary system commit the transaction after secondary will receive the primary will send the data, secondary will receive to the main memory, then it will send the acknowledgement back to the primary, then primary will send the data to the secondary, means the data will be stored into the main memory, in memory concept here. So in case of delay for transaction in the primary system is smaller, then there is a which means if there is no if any data disk issues or data issues, IO issues, it will not affect. Why? Because the data is storing into the main memory. The data storing into the main memory here. So when the connection is lost to the primary here, when the connection lost to the secondary system here, the primary system will continues to write the data here. So there is no impact. There is no impact here. So there is no impact on the your primary and secondary data loss, nothing here. Continuously, it will write the data here. When the connection is lost to the secondary system, secondary to primary, then primary still continues to write the data processing into the local disk only. Local disk only, it will write the data here. So that is the main thing here. So whenever the takeover is executed or secondary is not available, that time, so So means whenever the primary, secondary fail at the same time, then that time we have the data loss activity here. Data loss can occur. Why? Because it's writing into the main memory here. Both the same time, the secondary is primary is down and secondary down, we have the data loss activity. Why? Because the transaction is not persisted of the main memory here. Main memory to disk here. Only it is available in the main memory. So main memory is the temporary storage only. So that time you have the data loss activity here. That time data loss activity here. So which means basically in the sync we have the two modes. Sync on the disk, sync on the main memory here. So in the both synchronous, secondary will send the acknowledgement to the primary. That is the thing you should remember. Synchronous, it will wait for the acknowledgement from the secondary, then it will commit the next transaction. Then a wait and it will commit the next transaction. That is the synchronous. Asynchronous means so the primary, secondary, there is no acknowledgement here, which means the primary will keep on sending the data to the secondary. So the secondary will not bother about whether the transaction is received by my primary system or not. It will not bother. So that is the main concept of the async mode. Async mode, there is no acknowledgement, and also it will not bother whether my secondary received the transaction or not. But in the synchronous mode, the primary will bother about my secondary received the transaction, then I should get the acknowledgement, then it will commit the next transaction here. So that is only one thing for the in the sync and asynchronous mode here. In the sync and asynchronous mode here. Okay, that is the one thing here. That is the one thing we should be remember here, right? So these are the replication modes we have to configure, either in memory or either synchronous, either sync mem or async mem. So we have to choose it here. Sync. The next one is the operational modes here. Operation modes here. So what is mean by operational modes here? So operational modes are again two types here. One is the delta data shipping and a log replay mechanism here. So normally, we will choose the log replay only. Continuously the logs will be replayed from the logs, whatever the transaction logs are generated in the primary, that will be replayed on the secondary. Then what is the difference between the log replay and delta data shipping here? So the delta data shipping means this mode. So this mode, every 10 minutes, the data shipping takes place. So data shipping will take place additional to the log. So log shipping here. Every 10 minutes, the delta will be shipping to the primary. The secondary system will purchase the log, but it will not replay them until takeover. So in the delta data shipping, so is the every 10 minutes. Occasionally means system replication occasionally will send the data shipping to the secondary. Then the secondary will receive it, but immediately it will not be replayed, means re-executed on the secondary. Whenever the takeover happens, that time, whenever the takeover happens here, the secondary takeover happens, all the logs will be replayed, then a secondary will come to the become active status here. Until then, we have this activity here. So whenever you use the log replay mechanism here, you have this log replay mechanism here, what will happen here? So continuously the logs will be replayed. Then the data immediately, whenever the takeover happens, immediately the secondary is available here. That is what this is the continuously the logs will be replayed on the secondary. This is the whenever the takeover happens, then we have to move the logs here. Means logs, that time the logs will be re-executed here. So that is the here. So to reduce the takeover timelines, we need to choose the log replay. So to avoid the continuously contacting the secondary, So then we can use this one. Depends upon the customer choice. So we can use the either the log replay or data sheet. Normally, log replay, the synchronous mode is the best option here. Best option here. So we can choose it. For the primary and secondary, we choose this one, right? Primary and secondary, we choose this one. Both are in the same data center. Sync, sync and sync and so the log replay, we can choose it here. So if it is the DR, what we can do, we can choose the async mode. With DR, we can choose the asynchronous mode. Then log replay is common here. Log replay is common here. So we can choose it. These two modes are very important here. Each and every interview point of time, they may ask you questions on the replication modes and operational modes concept here. So how many types of replication modes? 3. How many types of operational modes? 2. You need to explain. So now source system information. What is your source? SAP HANA. So we have to give the full name here. Maybe ping SAP HANA. So this is the full name here, right? With the FQDN, we have to give it here. Then initiate the full data shipping here. Yes. So you want to start the secondary after the registration. Yes. Select it. Then click on the finish button here. Now registering the secondary into primary. If any issues with the keys, we may face the error here. Then immediately you can go to the primary here. Then see the replication modes here, right? The replication modes are set up now. Now we have the replication mode. System replication is set up here. So here you see replication setup here. Now secondary will come to the online, but it's not the active status here. Type A, type B here. Now initializing. The data shifting is initializing here. The full replica is happening here. So that is happening in the secondary. Replication is happening now. Initializing. Data is replicating from primary to secondary here. Primary to secondary. One is the name server, remaining two are the index server and extension tenant related things here. So one is come to the active status, right? Then remaining two here. Remaining two will come now. So we have to wait for some time. Why? Because we have chosen the mode here. Then it should come to the online status here. Okay, initializing. Save point is pending now. Initializing now. Initializing. Okay, active. So then this preparing the persistency layer means the data is replicated. All are active now. All are active now. You can see here. So you can see here site A, what is the primary and secondary? Yes, when was the last connection time? Then what is the log position here? How many logs are moved here, right? So here, so this is the last log position here. Last log position here, right? 264. Then here 264. Shipped log position here and the last log position here. Both are same. Ship means how many logs are moved to the secondary here. So logs to log position here. So all the data here we can see here. When was the last log and all the information we can see it here, right? So this is the one, right? Now see here primary and secondary, the replication is happening here. Now replication is happening. Means if you do any changes in the primary, automatically it will be replicated to your secondary also. Let's do some system DB. You try to do some creations here. Right. So now replication is configured and operational modes and the replication modes is active now. Means data is replicating from primary to secondary. Now whatever the data comes to the primary, then automatically it is moved to the secondary here. Here you can see here the replication modes. right? Here you can see the replication modes. All the services are active in sync. So no issues here, replication status here. So replication is active now. You have configured. So all the data will, but now secondary will not be accessible from the HANA Studio. Secondary will not be accessible. Secondary will not be accessible here. Why? Because secondary tenant DB here. So primary is accessible. What about the secondary? Secondary will not be accessible here. Why? Because the secondary is secondary. So users, we cannot use the secondary now. Here, no one cannot log in now. But because the primary is, so here, we have to log in here. If you do anything in the primary here, if you create the user, just create the user, some test user, you can create it. Okay. Same will be replicated to the secondary also. Same will be replicated to the secondary whenever you use the takeover, whenever you choose the takeover here. Just I created the one test user I created, and in the primary also I created the Ravi user I created here, and one role created. So replication is happening when in suddenly some cases something is happened, or you may have to come up with the situation like takeover. Takeover means, so the secondary will be primary. It will happen like this here, right? So takeover, go to the system configuration here, right? So secondary is not available now, right? Now you are taking over the responsibility of the primary, which means the secondary will become active. Primary, secondary will come to the primary, then primary will become secondary now. What we have to do? We have to perform the takeover now. Takeover means, so source means now source will be accessible here now. Just click on the finish button now. So what will happen? So what the primary will become secondary now. Secondary will become primary now. That will happen now. Let's see here. You see now. So it is happening now. Takeover. Performing the takeover now. So whatever the data we created in the primary PRA, so same data will come to the secondary also. Let's see. So it's performing the takeover means, so all the data will move now. And the replication also will disconnect now. All the replications, everything will go away now. You can see the log performing the takeover. The takeover will take time. Take time means all the logs will be replayed, then takeover is done. Now you see secondary now, so secondary will become active now, right? So go to the security folder, you see the user which we created here, it will come to the, so it will come to the this list here, test user, right? We created here. In the tenant DB of the secondary, let's validate the user now. All right, one user we created, right? Ravi one we created. So Ravi one user, it came to the here. Then roles, one role we created. So some text role with that basis. So that role also came to the secondary, which means, so what happened means all the data, whatever the data comes to the primary, all the data will be moved to the your secondary system. All the data move to the secondary system here. That's what it's happened here. That is what it's happened in the system here, right? So that is the concept of the replication and operational modes concept. Replication and operational modes concept here, right? It is the concept of the replication modes and operational modes concept here. Okay, so now you can observe it, the takeover. So all that now two databases are available. Again, you need to reconfigure the replication. That is what. So here it is happened, right? So that is the high HA side, the replication configuration from the primary to secondary DB here. Why? Because the data is come to the here. Then we have secondary database also. Then we should move the same data to the here also. So why? Because in the primary suddenly something is happened, then immediately same data should be available in the secondary database also, right? Otherwise, if the only one DB, if it is down, then you have the business down situation here. You have the downtime, business down situation here. So to avoid this one, so in the some critical applications, the people, the customers will go for the other high availability, the replication configuration here. Okay, so we have to use this replication modes and operational modes concept to perform the configuration here. Okay, so these are the steps we need to follow. So you have the two databases now, right? So you can perform the same steps. So whatever I have done it, I will share the some documents also. You can perform the same. Okay, so that everything will be, so you will get the practice on the replication modes and so operational modes configuration also. Okay, any questions from anyone?
Sir, how to copy SSFC keys by using OS level?
OS level, we need to use the SCP command. SCP command, we have to use it here, OS level. Suppose you want to copy the one file. Suppose like example, the CD/temp, you want to copy the one file here. Suppose like you want to copy the, so this file. Okay, so what we have to do, SCP, the file name, then what is the target user, then target host name is SAP HANA, : what is the target path. So this one we have to give it, then the data will be copied here. Data will be copied like this. So then we have to enter the password. Then so it will not create the regular by. So some permission issue is not creating. So this is the command. So we have to use it here from server to server. So if you are not sure about this SCP command, then you can use the WinSCP. Then connect to the two systems, pick up the files from here to your downloads folder. From here to again, you can load to the SAP HANA 1, Linux 1. This is also one way. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Any questions from anyone? So I will share the steps what to follow. Then you can perform the same. Then you will get the experience. Okay. So do this one. Why? Because it's a very important concept. Operational modes and the replication modes. So HANA HA side, high availability side, we will use this HANA HA here. So why? Because so in the worst case scenario, the primary database down, then entire SAP also will go down, right? So in this case, to make SAP availability, we will install the secondary database also, so that all the data, whatever the data in the primary, should go to the secondary.